So, I started my career as a high-tech journalist. And one day, my editor told me, like, Kris, we love your articles, but you always conclude that it's not going to work. And then I realized I was onto something, because I was really trying to be objective, so it was not my fault. And so I moved to Spain in 2007, and I decided to start Low Tech magazine. And Low Tech magazine is a critique of the high-tech vision of a sustainable society. So, whoa. Okay. I'm not good with Apple computers. All right. I think something went wrong already. It's quite typical whenever I come close to high-tech. Yeah. All right. So this is the part of my work is like trying to explain why the high-tech approach to sustainability is not working. And the idea of a high-tech sustainable society is mainly like, let's switch from fossil fuels to renewable energy and just keep on doing what we're doing. So living the Western life, keep growing the economy. And that's quite a problematic approach, as I try to explain in the category of high-tech problems. And I have to keep this short, so I mainly want to focus why renewable energy is not the solution that everyone's talking about. First of all, it has very low power density, which means that you need much more space, much more materials to generate a similar amount of energy as with fossil fuels. And secondly, obviously, wind, solar energy are not always available. So if there's no wind, if there's no sun, you have no energy. And that means you have to build infrastructure for energy storage or for the transmission, international network of electricity transmission to kind of exchange renewable energy across countries. Now, the problem with that is that you're actually overbuilding the infrastructure and that you need much more resources and time and money to make a switch to renewable energy. So my point is actually that you have to adapt society, technology, lifestyle to another type of energy source, to renewable energy source. And which means that renewable energy is less abundant and it is not always available. And with Low Tech magazine, I try to look for inspiration in the past. So here you find some examples about heating, all kinds of stuff. And we consider wind energy, solar energy, like something that is new, but of course it is not new at all. We have been using windmills and sailing boats for 2,000 years and even longer than that. And it really pays to look back at history and see what we can learn from how people dealt with these forms of energy. So, for example, you have the history of wind power. So the question, what I wondered was like, how did people in earlier times deal with the intermittency of renewable energy, like wind, water power, but especially wind, because water power is pretty much reliable and you can kind of store it when you build a dam. But with a windmill, you cannot really do that. And the same with a sailboat. So you cannot really, you don't have a backup source in an old-fashioned sailboat. So I started investigating, like, how does it work how did it work in the past? And then I find out that people had some ways to kind of provide backup power. For example, they were using animal-powered mills in times of calm days. But they only used it for processes that were really crucial for survival, like, for example, the food production, like grain, the milling of grain. But windmills were doing many more other things. They were, for example, sawing wood, they were grinding, polishing stuff, they were cutting materials, they were making paper. And all these processes, they didn't use animals as a backup power because it was too expensive. But what they did was actually they only ran their factories when there was wind. And when there was no wind, they were simply not running their factories. And the same was what happened with the sailing boat. So at sea, you have pretty more reliable winds and seasonal winds. And people adapted to that. So they knew when they had to leave with their sailing boat and when not. So when there was no wind, there was no transportation, there was no industrial production. And somehow everything worked. So the industrial production continued, people had everything they need. Transportation was global, so that's nothing new. It's not from the 20th century. And so the idea is basically that you use energy when it is available. Wind power, solar power, which was not really used so much in the terms of industrial production in earlier times. And you can actually apply this approach to modern technology. And so after the high-tech problems and the obsolete technology, which is where I'm looking for inspiration, you have the low-tech solutions that try to take inspiration from the past and kind of apply it to the modern society. And actually, all these industrial processes that ran on intermittent energy sources in the past are still very important. We still have to cut and saw and polish things. We still have to make paper and everything. And those things could perfectly happen with an intermittent energy source. You don't really need continuous energy supply to make paper or to saw wood. It just could happen whenever the wind blows or whenever the sun shines, because we have better technology now. We could use solar panels, so you could have a factory that is run by wind power and solar power, and that runs whenever one of two is available. The same could happen with sailboats. So there's many arguments to kind of get the sailboats back, and you could also apply it, for example, to trains. So you could say like, okay, we just run the trains whenever there is wind or whenever there is sun. And that works especially well with cargo trains, which are just like cargo ships, not really tied to strict schedules. They're often lying, waiting a lot of time in train yards or in harbors until they're full, for example. So you could run a train whenever the wind blows or the sun shines. And you could also do it with passenger trains. You could imagine like you get up, you look out of the window, you see, it's sunny, let's go to Malmö. And of course it would kind of have quite an effect on how modern life would work, but it's how it worked before and it's how it could work again, actually. And another great consequence of that is that you actually would produce much less stuff, and we would transport less stuff, and we would travel less. And overproduction of stuff, of things we don't need, is actually at the heart of climate change, environmental destruction. So from the moment you kind of adapt to the weather, to the seasons, you have more seasonal production of things, you have more seasonal transportation, you automatically produce less things that we don't need anyway. So you can also apply this thinking to the internet, to websites. And it's one of the new technologies. It's considered very high tech. And I often got the comment that, you're Mr. Low Tech and you're using the internet, the high tech internet, to tell us to be critical of high technologies. And I always try to practice what I preach. So, I'm still at 0 minutes, but yeah, well. technology. Whatever. So I always try to practice what I preach, which, for example, I came here by train, took me 3 days and 1 night from Barcelona. I took my office off the grid, stuff like that. But then I thought, yeah, I should also kind of build a low-tech website, if that's possible. And 2 years ago, I got an offer from 2 then students from RISD in the States to redesign the website. And I thought, okay, this is the moment. I also got a Dutch artist on board, which is Roel Roskam-Abbing. He accidentally just moved to Malmö, so he's here. And we decided to try to build a low-tech website. I think it's time for a snooze. Gets me less nervous. So how do you build a low-tech website? And the funny thing is that what kind of became the idea behind Low-Tech magazine, like if you want a solution, just look at the past. It also applies to the internet, to the website. So what we did is we went back to the beginning, the early days of the website. And in the 1990s, people built not dynamic websites, they built static websites. Yeah, first I have to say what's actually what's the problem with the internet? So the internet is kind of has an image that it is sustainable, that it is a sustainable alternative for many physical things like transportation, reading newspapers and stuff like that. But the problem is that the energy use is increasing extremely quickly, and it's becoming quite problematic. And if you look at what's actually happening, you see that it's not caused by a growing number of internet users. So the energy use, it increases much faster than the amount of internet users. So what's happening is that each of us is actually using more and more energy on the internet. And there's 2 reasons for that. One is the increasing bit rate of the content. So the internet started as a text medium, but more and more it became more visual. So you had more images, you had more videos, and then these images, videos, the resolution keeps increasing. So for example, if you look at the average website, it was 0.5 megabytes in 2010. It's almost 2 megabytes today. So it's like a big difference. So it's, yeah, websites are becoming fatter and fatter. And the second reason is that we are always online. So before you had access to the internet when you were at home, when you were at the office, or when you were at the library. And today, people are connected from the moment they get up until the moment they go to sleep. And those 2 things together make it so that the energy use keeps increasing. And with our low-tech website, we try to address these 2 issues. So first of all, the static website. These days, I mean, if you visit a website, okay, I have to click some. Yeah, we're now at the website. Here's the website. If you visit a web page these days, it's actually not existing. It is only generated when you visit it. So that's what they call a dynamic website, because we want everything to be updated, like the latest comments, the latest likes, the advertising keeps being updated. And it's actually very resource intensive, because the computer, the server, always has to, with every visitor, has to create a new web page. And a static web page is just like based on file storage. It's just like when you access files on your computer, you just open the file, it's always there. And that means that you require much less energy from the web server. And another thing we did is the images. So, I mean, we could have easily made a very energy efficient website by just eliminating all the visuals. But it's quite, yeah, it's an important appeal of, yeah, I'm not connected. Whatever. So it's an important appeal of Low-Tech magazine. that there's a lot of visuals that you cannot see right now. Yeah, maybe Roel, you have to you have it on a stick, no? Or or you don't care. Um, so it would have been easy to just make a super efficient website, eliminating all the images. Instead of that, we decided to go for an old compression technique that's called dithering. So you actually remove the colors, you lower the resolution, it gets different grayscales, and yeah, it looks very beautiful, but you cannot see it. Rule, what would I be without you, man? I should fly you in everywhere. Okay, so, but then I'm gonna have the same problem, right? Where's the internet guy or girl? Ah, okay. That's because all of you are on the internet, probably. So could you stop being on the internet? Yeah, so if you enlarge one of the pictures, you see what the dithering is all about. We also use default typefaces. So actually what the typeface you see is the typeface of the browser. So the website will look different depending on the browser you use and the settings of the browser. We also don't have a real logo, so we just made this typographic move of the arrow, which refers to the earlier design, which was like a native Indian with a spear. And all these kind of little tweaks, they kind of lower the requests to the server, and again, you save a lot of energy. And by doing all these things, you end up with a very super energy efficient website. And that means, one, that you can run it on a very small server. So we run it on an Olimex, which is like a type of Raspberry Pi computer, just a little bit more powerful. And it consumes about 1 watt of power. Hey, we're back. So here you see it. There's yeah, that's the solar installation, there's the website, and there's the server. So it's at my home. And yeah, that's one thing. So it's very low energy. Secondly, it's accessible for people with slow computers, old computers, and slow internet connections. Because what we call the World Wide Web is actually just a half the World Wide Web, because in many countries you cannot access the websites that we make here. They're just too resource intensive. So we got mails from people in countries that say, finally a website we can download. Secondly, if if you have such a low energy website, you can actually host it yourself, which would be impossible with a dynamic website for WordPress, for example. Not just because of energy use, but also because it would be an easy target for hackers. So our site can, I mean, you can send a lot of traffic to it to try to get it down, but because it's so energy efficient, it takes a long time, and by then we already see what's happening and we block you. So it's basically unhackable. And well, it just got hacked. All right. Yeah, well, maybe I should not say these things. Let's see. Yeah, and the great thing about self-hosting is that you can also choose your own power source. So I decided to put a solar panel on the balcony where I live, which is close to Barcelona in Spain. It's a 50-watt solar panel. It's quite big for the server, but that's because in mornings it is shaded by the building itself, so it only has like 4 to 6 hours of sunlight. And where are we? Ah, yeah. So at the moment, we are at 0% battery, which means I have to hurry up. Yeah. So this is more or less where it is located. So the internet is really gone. And it goes offline when it's cloudy. You already got that. Why? Because what I explained earlier. So it would be perfectly possible to design a website, a solar-powered website that's always online, but that means that you have to have a huge battery storage and a larger solar panel even, because even in Barcelona, you have now and then you can have a period, say, of 1 week, 2 weeks of bad weather. And to bridge that, you really need a big storage, and that would be very expensive. It would take a lot of space. I mean, it has to fit on my balcony, and it would be very unsustainable because you need a lot of energy to produce those batteries, which only last for a few years. You have to replace them. So any off-the-grid power system that is 100% reliable is by definition unsustainable. So you need to kind of take that into account. And so I will show you the battery if the internet is still there. That's the server, and here's the battery. So it's a LiPo battery that actually goes with Olimex, and then we have, that's very small, and then you have a very old lead acid battery that I recycled from another application. And that's it. So the website has enough energy storage to get it through the night, because otherwise people, for example, in the US would not be able to visit the website unless during their night. Yeah, and of course it's a bit unhandy. Yeah, sorry, I lost. So, but if it's bad weather, it goes down pretty quickly. So if it rains, with just a cloud cover, it's quite okay because the solar panel still generates enough energy to keep it running. But when it's bad weather, when it rains, it goes down. Of course, that's not very practical. So what we do is we help people plan their visit. First, there's the battery meter, which you cannot see now, either because we're not online or because the website is about to go down, because at the moment the weather is really bad in Barcelona. So climate change is good for Malmö, but apparently bad for Barcelona. So I should really move here. So the battery meter, you don't see it, but it's normally right basically in your face, because we also want to show people have this idea the internet is in the clouds, it's sustainable, but there's a whole infrastructure behind it that we make clear with this battery meter that some people complain about, like get it out, get it away, but we really keep it because we want to kind of educate people about the energy use. And then we have weather provision. Because of course the readers of the website are not necessarily in Barcelona, so you need to know which weather it is in Barcelona. So here usually you have a forecast for the coming days, but we're not online now, so you cannot see that. And we also have offline reading options, so you can download the whole website on your computer. And we also made a printed version, which is, as you can see, it has it's a perfect copy of the website. It has even the web address of the website on the spine. And so, yeah, it's the ultimate low-tech website. It's kind of like a big middle finger to the internet. Like, in the end, you could just print a book and sell it, which also solved kind of how to finance the website, because before it was running advertisements, which is not really compatible with a low-tech web design, very resource-intensive, trackers, you have to craft cookie warnings. We don't have that. We don't track anything or anyone. And so now the book is kind of part of how to finance the website. I think I need to stop now. Yeah. All right. Thank you.